The Lost Caverns of Ixalan is set up to be a powerhouse set to end off the year 2023. Players have noticed more powerful synergized cards for the set that will fit into multiple formats for players going forward. And in today's video we will discuss some of these high powered cards, of course, but we'll also talk about Wizards of the Coast's future plans if a set like this becomes too successful. Compared to other standard sets, the Lost Caverns of Ixalan is being celebrated by the players of Magic the Gathering, and it's a set that players are looking forward to as we round out the year 2023. Welcome back everyone, mtgnews here, and thanks again for hanging out with me on the channel today. A reminder that this video is sponsored and brought to you by the patrons and YouTube membership members of this channel, and if you enjoyed today's content, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel and joining the conversation. Now, before we get to the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, let's look at the original Ixalan released in 2017 for $79.99 US a box. And of course, back then, the most powerful card in that set was the Sun's Avatar, nowadays $38, but back then, you could have found this card for a measly $5 in 2017. The times, they have changed. Ixalan was followed by the Rivals of Ixalan in January of 2018. Box prices had gone up a little bit in Canada, not much in the United States. The best card back then was the Polyraptor for $24 nowadays, but only $4 back in 2018. As you can see, these cards have uses even today, but have the power levels changed that much? Yes, they have. They most certainly have changed since 2017 and 2018. The game itself continues to evolve, and this faster pace has now led us to the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, and the power cards they are showing us going forward will become the new standard way of these cards being created. Let's take a look at some of these amazing cards though, because they are going to fit not only in standard, pioneer, or modern, they're gonna find a home in some cases vintage, legacy, and of course commander. Echoing Deeps from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan is a land cave that you can have enter the battlefield and just, of course, tap for colorless mana, but you can also have it entering the battlefield tapped as a copy of any land card in a graveyard. So, of course, this just speaks to me as a commander card that will have a lot of utilization, and depending on how you decide to build your commander deck, cards like Muldrotha, the Gravetide, are great inclusions for your commander deck, but now you can pair it off with cards like Echoing Deeps, but what cards are you going to add into that? What's going to make it synergize and actively attack your opponent? Well, that's going to be cards like Strip Mine, which can attack any land any opponent has. And having Echoing Deeps be a copy of that after the Strip Mine's gone to the graveyard can be a lot of fun, I would assume, if you're playing a land destruction deck. But how do you get all these cards to keep coming back with some form of synergy? Well, adding things like Crucible of Worlds, using a Wrenn 6 to make sure you have a good pattern to make sure these lands can come back when you need them to. Means you can start eliminating opponents' lands, defining what they are able to do in their play space, and dominating the battlefield until you can put the rest of your plan into effect. When I see a card like Echoing Deeps, a land card inside of a standardized set, it really makes me think that card belongs in Commander. And it shows how Wizards of the Coast has tried to appeal to the largest audience possible to get as much product opened and into the hands of players. But there is something else on Ixalan that players need to be aware of, and that is the new mechanics. Things like Descend may not seem like a lot right now, but as this mechanic gets explored in future sets, and as Wizards broadens out the cards that have Descend, this is something players need to consider. So let's take a look at one of those cards next. The next card had many players freaking out, thinking, what was Wizards of the Coast thinking? Here is the Ancient One. 1 blue, 1 black for an 8/8 legendary creature spirit god. It has Descend 8, and that means the Ancient One cannot attack or block until there are at least 8 permanent cards or more in your graveyard. But of course it has a secondary ability which players should note that says 1 black, 1 blue, and 2 generic, draw a card and then discard a card. When you discard a card this way, target player mills cards equal to its mana value. This card will be used in Standard. There are enough cards to make this card work in a Standard format environment, but when you're looking at other formats, it's less likely to get played, which means it loses a lot of its power and awe and prestige. but that does not mean that the descend mechanic won't show up again later, making a card like this have a lot more value than players realize. So when you look at a card like this and look at the power level, it does seem skewed to be something greater later. It looks like it's going to be okay now, depending on how you're playing, because it can't block, it can't attack. But there are the opportunities for cards like this to become something a lot more in the other formats that Wizards of the Coast wants to cultivate. They want more commander players. They want more money being spent. And a set like this, like the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, is leaving a lot of opportunities for Wizards of the Coast to do just that. So cards like the Descend mechanic are something we're going to see more of. But like other game mechanics, Wizards of the Coast may take several years before they actually introduce new Descend mechanic cards. Remember that this is the first time we are getting the Descend mechanic, which means Wizards of the Coast is exploring it to see how it plays inside the game format of Magic the Gathering. In the past, they have abandoned mechanics that don't work well, and they've brought back mechanics like phasing when they think they've figured it out and can make it work inside the format. Descend mechanic cards right now that are inside of the Lost Caverns of Ixalan could become very valuable game pieces years down the road as Wizards of the Coast adds new pieces that explore the Descend mechanic. Just like Adventures in Forgotten Realms, if we get new dungeons all of a sudden, you might see a popular rise inside the old dungeon cards. It all depends on which pathway Wizards of the Coast decides to explore and which ones will utilize and give them the largest cashback returns on their investment inside that mechanic with R&D. As with their R&D development, Wizards of the Coast has also taken the time to make sure to explore creature types that players already have a fascination with. Here we have the Resplendant Angel from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. This is a 2-white, 1 generic 3/3 angel. And it's a flying angel that says, at the beginning of each end step, if you gained 5 life or more this turn, create a 4/4 white angel token creature with flying and vigilance. So it's creating a Sarah Angel, which is amazing. It touches on the nostalgia of the past. Their R&D department, their development teams do a fantastic job of getting this in, but this creature's not done yet. It also says, for 3 white and 3 generic, until end of turn, Resplendent Angel gets +2/+2 and gains lifelink. So yes, it starts out as a weaker creature, but as the game progresses, if this creature is left on the battlefield, left in a commander deck to be played, it can get a lot more powerful, add a lot more packing punch, and of course, if you have nothing to do with your mana right now, this allows a little more option. Now, Ixalan has done something else I think is quite interesting inside the set with cards like this. A card like Helping Hand, which is a 1 white sorcery, return target creature card with value 3 or greater from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Wizards of the Coast has planned the Lost Caverns of Ixalan in many ways, and this is one of the ways that you can really see they've put some time and effort into the cards. They've even made sure that cards from Dominaria United can get in on the action, because don't forget, there is also Sarah Paragon. 2 white, 2 generic, creature angel that's a 3/4 flyer that says, once during each of your turns, you may play a land from your graveyard or cast a permanent spell with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard. If you do, it gains when this permanent is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, exile it, and you gain 2 life. So the cards they are offering up, the way they are building and constructing the new set, the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, is making sure that it hits a home run. Wizards has planned this set down to a T, and it is going to have a lot of appeal to a lot of players, and you can see why players are getting so excited to be able to play this set. With the Lost Caverns of Ixalan hitting on so many points that players are going to enjoy, Wizards of the Coast can look forward to a successful launch of this product. The enjoyment of players is almost guaranteed until we find flaws later on, if any, that we can gripe and complain about. But what we should take away from this is that a successful launch, successful products, and a lot of players being happy also means that Wizards of the Coast makes a lot of money for the company, and they can try to replicate the success of a product like this that goes well for players. Yes, there'll be some players who will say it was too powerful. Yes, there will be some people who say this may break or is an error in other formats or doesn't work well, but for the most part, players are really excited about this release. They are looking forward to doing it, which means Wizards of the Coast can look forward to generating a lot of revenue for Hasbro. And of course, we look forward to the fact that they may be able to bring a product line like this to bear again in the next year or two, something players can look forward to. The only difference will be is it's going to be play boosters, and it's of course going to be at a higher price point. It'll be interesting to see after 2023 ends and we get into 2024 how Wizards of the Coast will again adjust to the new profit margins they're trying to generate for the company while still trying to keep the players happy. Thanks again for tuning in today. I really hope you all enjoyed the video, and of course I look forward to another video with you all tomorrow. Have a great day, and don't forget, bring a friend to Magic. So here we are at the end of the video, celebrating the credits for all the amazing patrons who support the channel each and every day. Guys, thanks again for being here. Thanks for hanging out with me. I look forward to seeing you on the live stream this weekend. Have a great one. Ramble Jamble! You're here at the end. How you guys doing? Thanks for stopping by. Man, guys, happy Halloween. This is now November 1st. Kind of crazy, right? We just had Halloween yesterday. Mini Mox was out. It's probably near his end of his career as a trick-or-treater. He thinks he's getting too old now, turning 13. You know how it is, guys. It's kind of like that thing where it's like he's 12 turning 13, and all of his friends, like some are going, some aren't. That weird, awkward phase. I don't know what to tell you. Having kids is great, but there's those moments where you're like, oh, they're growing up, man. Good, get out and shovel the laneway. That's so brutal, but it's going to happen. So, the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. In case you guys didn't realize this, it's selling well. The pre-sales are up. This is going to be very interesting to see because even to a person like me, the set seems really powerful. Seems like there's a lot of good cards, and I'm hearing like a positive buzz in my ear all over the place. I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what you guys hear. I'm curious to know about it, so slam some stuff down. Let me know what you guys think. And of course, thanks for stopping by. I mean, you didn't bring me any candy. I mean, there should be a candy tax, shouldn't there? When my kid comes home tonight? I need a candy tax. Candy tax.